Hi, I'm Gary and welcome to my shop. A couple of years ago in 2017, I published a video on putting a router table into the wing of my Ridgid R4512 table saw. That's been working very well for me except for one thing: dust control. In this video I'm going to install a router dust bucket on that table, and I'll show you some of the challenges I met and resolved in doing that in the wing of my table saw. Now, some of my techniques may not be approved by suppliers or manufacturers of the products, so follow my techniques at your own risk. Stick around to the end for some extras and information you'll want to see. Please consider subscribing and joining our community by clicking on that little red icon down in the lower right corner, and be sure to hit the bell icon so you won't miss anything. Also, please hit that thumbs up icon and give me a like, and share it with your family, friends, and fellow crafts enthusiasts. So please leave your comments below and tell me your questions, thoughts, and ideas. Be sure to read the description below because it contains additional information, updates, and corrections. So check back often for updates. So let's get to this project now. Please forgive some of the jump cuts I put into this as I'm trying to put this together and cover all the points. As you can see in the opening pictures, the router table and the wing of my table saw here drops a lot of dust onto the floor and into the air. Now, while I wear a dust mask and I have a shop air filtration system, collecting as much dust at the source is always the best. Now, the router table in the wing of my table saw is one I installed in 2017, and I made a video on that. Now it's time for some updates, and I'll put a link below to the video on the router table installed in the wing of my table saw on my Ridgid R4512. While I have a fence that I use with my router table, it has an adjustable opening and a vacuum port, but it still doesn't capture all the dust, and sometimes none, depending on the routing process that I'm doing. So here I'm going to install a dust bucket to capture as much of the dust as I can. And when using a dust bucket on a router table, we also need to use router insert plates that have holes or openings to allow for dust to be drawn down into the dust bucket. Now, in this first second, I'm going to give an overview of what I'll do and the parts I'm going to be using, and I'll provide links in the description below for all the parts, and if not links, a description so you can get them at your local big box home store or your local hardware store. I always recommend support your local small business when you can. I'm going to install this dust bucket I got from Rockler, and you can get these dust buckets from several different sources. I went with the Rockler one as the table I made is designed based on the Rockler table's dimensions. Now, this dust bucket was about $100, and they have a new one out now that is blue in color and a few minor changes. I'll put up a couple images of that. Still, it's the same price at $99. The one I have here is an older one that I bought some time ago, and I'm just getting around to installing it. The installation will be the same with the newer one as what I'm doing here. Now, this package comes with a lot of flat metal pieces that I'll assemble into a box. It's bare metal, so I suppose I could spray paint it to a color I like. The kit comes with several screws to assemble it. Then I will attach the vacuum port and the vent control onto the box. I also got a 90-degree elbow here for connecting my dust right hose to it. Since this is in the wing of my table saw, I need to make a turn before I run into the underside of my table saw. Now, I'm going to mount this to the underside of my router table, but keep it removable when the router is not in use. When I'm not using the router, I usually take it out and put it on a shelf somewhere and park it in my shop. Then I can put the shop cart underneath the wing of my table saw. Now, this box assembly has two sides that have right angle flanges to it, such as these, and they've got the mounting holes here for the screws or the knobs that you can use to mount it. It comes with a lot of screws, so we can assemble this together. Then a back side and a front side. The front side has a door to it for access to cleaning it out. Now, it has these 4 holes that you can mount the box with, and you can either, because it's got keyhole-like slots, you can use like screw heads where you can just fit that through the hole there, slide it into position, tighten the screw back down again. What I chose to do is to use knobs that I can just use with my fingers and not have to get under there with a tool. I can just reach under there and feel it and use it. So to do that, I'm going to use these hanger screws, and it's a 1/4 inch thread, and one part of the thread is a quartz thread, the other part is a fine thread, which is a 1/4 by 20 thread. Then I found some knobs at Rockler that fit onto this real well, and with some testing I found out that these particular knobs are the ones that allow me enough clearance for my fingers so I can work this without having to have any troubles. Now the dust bucket came with a grommet for running the router cord through, such as this, and it slides into the hole in that, and then this end can pop off so you can get your cord in and out. So you might want to double check, make sure your plug is going to fit through this okay. So now what I'm going to do is remove my router table out of the wing of my table saw and turn it upside down here so I can get this all correctly dimensioned and adjusted for mounting. So here I've got my router table out of my table saw wing and flipped upside down here so I can work on it. And I also placed my router and the plate into the inset in there upside down here with a couple of boards that it's sitting on, so that holds it up there firmly all the way seated into the router tabletop. So that'll give me good position where it should be normally when it's over the other way. And I also put on my power supply switch here just to make sure that everything's going to clear correctly and I won't have any problems with that. And while I had it out, I painted the edges, as you can see in the opening video. Some of these edges were kind of banged up and roughed up a bit, so I touched them up, primed them, and repainted them again. Now what I'm going to do is to assemble this dust collection box on here and center it based on my router location here. And the way I do that is take these metal pieces and I position them on here. And this gets kind of odd and precarious trying to get these on here because these are loose pieces that are wiggling around a lot. And you got to be careful too because there's sharp edges on these, as I know from I got a cut from it. And then I'll put on the front door. I got to remember to do this all upside down and backwards because I've got this upside down on my table here. That'll go on there. Well, actually, let me put on the other side and then the back so you can see how this goes together. I'd laid out some marks here to make sure I had it in the right positions. Now the back part is going to be the one that's got the 2 holes in it. One's for the dust collection port and the other one's for the power cord to come through. That'll go on the back here. And it has to be upside down because this is going to be the bottom of this when it's together. As you can see how these are a little bit unsteady. So that's why what I'm using here is some these little plastic clamps. Hold these in place while I got everything positioned like that. So hold it up, get all the bottom parts in their position, so it's squared up. There we go. Now I can put on this front part, make sure I've got the door upside down. That in place. The clip on to hold it in place so it doesn't fall apart on me. Then this is where I kind of got a position. Got to make sure it's centered inside the box here. And I measured up around all the edges with a square here. Make sure I was in the right position, front and rear and the sides. And a good place. Then what will go on after that is this top piece here, or the bottom really. Since I got these clips on here, I can't do that right now. What I'll do is drive in all the screws that holds this together, and then I can put the top on. Additionally, we'll go on the back side here is this dust port that'll just screw right onto here in that position. There's a vent here. It's adjustable to open or close, and this will go on this side to allow for ventilation through there so the vacuum can draw the air through. Then there's this plug that goes into the back here, and this is the one that the electric cord will go through, and this cap comes off of here so you can allow to feed the plug through, and luckily enough my cord fits through there just fine, no problem. So that's a good deal. So this will plug in back here, get that through, put the cap on. Once I got the cord in there, it'll be easily removable for when I do want to remove this all from the table saw wing and park my cart back underneath there again. So what I'll do now is I'm going to go ahead and get the screws put into this, get her positioned up, mark my holes where I'm going to drill for putting those screws into these tabs that will hold it all in place once it's back right side up again. I'm going to get a couple of screws in to get this held in place, then I can take these clips off to get it further assembled. Take these off, get a couple on the front. I'm just doing kind of the center screws here because some of these will interact with that bottom that's going on there, along with the vents and stuff that we're putting in. Alright, so got some screws in there to hold this in position here in the box. I'll get it squared up and line up. Then make my holes for the knobs that are going to hold this in place. Well, I've got this all screwed together and in position, everything laid out and marked so I can do these other screws I want to do. And I put my power switch back on here. I had to take it off to get to some of these here reasonably. And now I got the door on and that can swing open and it clears everything okay. So I don't have to worry about this being in the way. Also, there's a magnet in here. Fits into a recess on the inside of this box and kind of holds itself in place by magnetic because this is all steel. But I would probably recommend a little dab of epoxy glue around it to hold it in place there so for some reason it doesn't slip out of place on you. I've got the vent in the back end, the vent on the side end, and pretty much ready to go. Besides getting the screws put on here so I can put this back over. So I've marked my spots where I need to drill for putting this box on and holding it in place. And I marked the depth on my drill bit of how deep I need to go to put this bolt in and get it sunk down far enough. And I've dimpled it there with a mark so I can get this on center. And do the other one. Now I'll drive these bolts into place there, and they'll provide the studs for mounting the box to. Double netted some nuts onto these studs, and I'll drive this in with a ratchet. And this drives pretty straight. That seems to be the point there. I'll take these nuts off and drive another one in. Now I have all four of these studs in place here, and two on the other side also, so I can place this box in place on top of here. Actually, I'll be doing it from the bottom once this is all together, and I'll hold it up, get it over these studs here, make sure it's pushed up against that. Then I can just put these knobs on my finger, and that'll work great. Using these knobs whereas I won't have to get under here and try and work it with a tool or a screwdriver. It'll be a lot easier to just do it by hand like that, and these hold pretty good and tight. We'll take this back off again, take everything off, get the table installed back into the wing of my table saw, and then get this all put together and give it a test run. I installed the dust bucket and tested things, and I thought I would explain a few things here. I have a few image angles of how this was installed. Now here is a view of the inside of the bucket, and you can see there's a lot of room for my router between the router and the bottom of the bucket. So I entertained the idea of a handle inside the bottom of the bucket to make it easy to hold the bucket up to the bottom of the table as I screwed the knobs onto the hanger bolts to hold the bucket in place. Now here's a shot of how the knobs fit onto the hanger bolts. Also, more shots of the power switch and the ventilation port, and how the hoses connect and the hose that goes up to the fence. Another shot shows the back side of the box and the dust hose connection and the grommet that the power cord comes out of. I did go ahead and install the handle inside the bottom of the box, and I put the screws in and they protrude through the bottom and they present a hazard due to the sharp points of the screws. And I cut off the points and screws and ground them down smooth with my rotary tool, and also put some small pieces of duct tape over them for some extra protection. Okay, so I'm going to put this dust bucket into my table saw wing here for the router. And first thing I do is take out this plate that I've got in here for covering up the hole when the router's not in here. I just pull that out and set it aside. Then I'm going to go grab my dust bucket and I bring it over and just kind of get a grip on it here. Get it placed on the studs, and I can reach inside and grab that handle and then put these knobs on. Just need to get 2 screws on to hold this in place for the time. I kind of do them at opposite corners of each other. Okay, got those in so the bucket stays in place. Put the other 2 knobs on. Makes it kind of easy to find these studs and put the knobs on. So make sure they're all snug. Okay, next I'll go and get my router and the plate that it's in. And I'll set it on here and unwind the cord here that I've got strapped up so it can be loose and feed into the bucket. What I'll do is get the cord fed into here, and I'm going to feed it through the plug hole down inside here. Pull this cap out, put the cord through, and pull it on through as much as I can. Then I'm going to turn this upside down and set it into the hole here. And then I'll put the screws on to hold the plate in place. The rest of this cord pulled out here. Then I'll put this grommet into place here to give that protection, and also to seal up any holes for the dust bucket. The next, what I'm going to do is to hook up the dust collection system to this. I'm going to go down over here to do this. I slip this on, and screw on. So it holds well. Then I will connect this dust right hose, the 4-incher. Then all I got to do is connect this hose up to the fence. So place my fence on. Goes into the track correctly. You get the hose for that. This slips on to this port here. Just kind of wiggling this kitted onto there. New hoses are a tight fit, and they do wear in after a time. It holds pretty good. Now attach the other end to this port down here. This is where I will get this to hold. That's pretty much how it gets set up. I can grab the remote from my central vac system and turn it on, and then I can feel the draft and everything that it's drawing into here. And then with this hose. So that works pretty well. All I have to do is adjust the dial on this vent here to make sure I got a good airflow and also enough airflow to keep the router motor cool too. Don't want to close it up too much. Then I will mount up a router bit and stuff here and do some cutting, and how well this collects all the dust for me and keeps it off the floor and out of the air for me. I've adjusted my fence here, and I got a 3/8 inch round over here. Just going to run a piece of scrap by this here, see how well everything sucks up all the dust into the dust bucket and through this. I've got the plate here that's got the slots in it to allow for the downdraft to collect some of the dust down there. Also, I'll show another demonstration where I do a slot where these are closed, so this is not going to work, but it'll downdraft all the dust into this. Now I'll change out the bit for doing a groove on this, and then we'll take a look at where the dust is at. Okay, now I've put in a 3/8 inch straight bit, and I changed the throat plate here to an appropriate size for doing this bit. It's a little bit smaller than the other one. Now what I'm going to do is I line this up. I'm going to run this through and cut a groove through the bottom of this board. And for operation like this, I like to have as smooth of a pass as I can across this middle separation here. So I close them up completely, which means all the dust is going to be drawn down through the throat plate, which is the only way it can go anyway. This is not going to draw any of the dust up anyway when this is all on the bottom. So as you can see, not a whole lot of dust on top here, and it all should have been drawn down below. I'll take a picture of that. Okay, so you can see here in the dust bucket, I've got some dust in there. Not a whole lot because the vacuum system has drawn it out, and very little has gone onto the floor at all. Matter of fact, not much at all has gone down to the floor. So this works great and keeps the dust to a minimum. And as you can see here, I got a pretty good groove all the way through on this board. So it took out a lot of dust, and there's not much left in the box, especially not on my floor. Well, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and you got some inspiration, please give me a like and hit that thumbs up icon. Also, please share it with your family, friends, and fellow woodworking enthusiasts. But please subscribe by hitting on that little red icon down in the lower right corner, and be sure to hit the bell icon so you won't miss anything new. Please leave your comments. I'd like to hear what you think, your suggestions, and your questions. Be sure to read the description below as it contains additional information, updates, and corrections. Check back often for the updates and corrections on these videos. So as they say in the Red Green Show, the ladies don't find you handsome, at least they should find you handy. Thank you.